Welcome to Voices of the Underground, hosted by Young Tai and Robert Geaux.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another brand new episode of Voices of the Underground EDM podcast, where we like to shine light on up-and-coming DJs and producers we feel deserve more exposure. Today we're going to do a recap video of past episodes because we started out in October. And we're going to kind of go over our favorite moments of this year and what we have planned for next year in 2022. But before we do that, my name is Young Tai, and I am here with my co-host, Robert Geaux. How's it going, buddy?
Cheers, mate. I'm doing good, man. I'm glad we're back at it after the holidays. I've been on a steady diet of apple pie and pineapple cheesecake, so it's good to get back to work a little bit here.
Definitely. We've been off for a while, so I agree with you. It is great to be back. I got a brand new mic for a lot of people that don't know.
It's about fucking time, man. Now we can stop
Yeah.
getting gassed up in our own Discord about your mic situation. It sounds good though. It sounds phenomenal. It's good to hear you loud and clear now.
Yeah, same. Because I keep getting that hate in the comments and all that. Love you guys, but it
Yeah.
was time to upgrade. Where to start off, man? We've had a pretty exciting past couple months because seeing how we started in October. Where do you want to start off with this?
Bro, yeah, it's been amazing. Like this year, and I know it's been a tough year for a lot of people, but professionally for
It
us,
has.
we've had a monster year as far as not only just this Discord and this podcast getting going, but just music wise, getting things signed and lined up for next year. It's been a great year, but I think it's an interesting story how we all met. I think that's what, in the first episode we talked about like advice for producers, right? And it's get into Discord, turn on your cameras, get personal and get to know people. And that's literally the blueprint of how we got, our career kind of started to take off this year. Is that's exactly the play we executed.
Oh yeah, we all met on that Discord and stuff and kind of clicked together and got in the voice chat like we've talked in episodes before, kind of turning on our cams, getting to know each other and all that. And yeah, we just built this group of people that are all having that same vision and what we're trying to accomplish, coming into this next year.
Yeah, it was Gaspar being on late, showing his projects. This is before he had signed a track to Revealed. So I want to say this was March of 2021. And it was great because I was familiar with his work, obviously, but I didn't know whom he was. So I'm like, yeah, let me hop in there. And I had a couple other buddies I was friends with off a WhatsApp group that were also in the Discord. So we hopped in there, started talking. He's super gracious about like showing us different projects. I mean, he's still an FL user, so it's not perfect, but it was cool to kind of see how he did things. And it was great because we would get on, start showing and sharing projects, at least, like, hey, this is an idea for this, this, and this. And even though we were all making different genres, where it was myself, it was Gaspar, you, of course, Chaotix would hop in time to time, Swento, DJ Crime, I met him. I think he's from fucking England or Ireland or one of those places. So yeah, it was great to meet people around the globe and share a lot of common interest. And then from there, we kind of started our own Discord just a little more on a private basis. And so we can kind of just talk a little more freely. And yeah, man, it's exploded from there.
Yeah, and we've came up with so many great ideas that we're going to implement into 2022. One of the things was this podcast.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it for quite some time, a couple years, and I just never had that motivation, never had that drive to do it. And then the one night you and I were on a voice call, and you kind of had this similar, idea, and like a month later or so, we started with our first episode, and we've just been growing ever since. So I really do appreciate everybody that's been tuning in and has been checking out the podcast and sharing it and all that to you. We cannot appreciate you guys enough for that.
Yeah, because I had talked about a podcast with some buddies of mine. I want to give them a special shout out because these guys I know when I kind of first started. Guy named Nacho Nova, super talented artist out of Macedonia. Another kid, Diley Simon, out of Portugal, who's had some releases on Blasting and Spur and HDR, I believe. So a guy named Bruno is a super talented DJ who first played my track. He was the first guy to play Cash Money for me in his live stream. So I was able to kind of get some live feedback. Yeah, and DJ Guy and so forth. So we had talked about and Ambrose, we had talked about like, hey, we should get together. It just was tough with everybody's schedule. They're 9 hours in Macedonia in front of me
Yeah.
and 8 hours in Portugal and so forth. So it was always kind of tough to get everyone together. But I think with you and I, we have a pretty good format. You understand a lot of the technology behind this, which was great. And yeah, man, it's really come together. And our first guest having Chaotix on, I thought was really important as far as going over different experiences that he's had in the scene, and he really shared a lot of things with us.
And yeah, to touch on the episode with Adam Chaotix, like we said earlier in the episode, turning on your mic, turning on your camera, and all that really helps you build that connection with the people that are across the world or wherever they may be, and just building these bonds, relationships, and then yeah, go on from there.
Yeah, and he had some really good information to share. I know he touched on mental health, which something that DJ guy was very candid about. And I think that's what I like most about this podcast, right? There's always nuggets you can take away from it. So it's not just hearing about somebody's story, like how did he become Chaotix or how did so and so become Ambrose or whatever the case is. But there's nuggets that I think that producers who may have been wondering or thinking about that we try to touch on. So it ultimately helps them on a personal and a career level. That is, I think, one of my favorite things that we do here.
Yeah, and it's helped out a lot of people already. We've seen messages coming in
Yeah.
to our DMs and stuff that this podcast and what we've been saying on it has been helping them. And it just gives us more motivation to keep on going with this. So I'm very happy that it's helping.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and speaking of candid, right? I mean, we can't say candid without talking about Gasbars episode, where
Yeah,
a lot of times we want to be super positive because this business is very, very hard, right? And to be creative, you have to be in a very positive mind space. But I thought it was interesting when he talked about, hey, it's not, I think his quote was sunshine and rainbows out here. And it's
it's
true.
not.
You're going to go through different pitfalls. Every challenge is different. And I thought that was interesting that he was candid about that. And then he was very candid and shared about his personal health situation, which, he's struggling with. And, persevering through that. So I all the artists have really done a good job of kind of opening up. Zach's, we heard about his,
Sebastian.
yeah, Sebastian talked about it at length as well, and his strategies
Oh,
for
man.
social media, I thought were really good, and I know that people watching that had a lot of positive takeaways. I found it interesting that he does everything in Spanish.
Well, yeah, him and I were talking on a voice call last night, and we went over that. And this might be something that could help other people that watch this podcast as well too. That he does everything in Spanish, but he also translates it to English for his audience, for like me and you and all that
Mhm.
as well, so we can all be engaged. So that's kind of one thing you can do to widen your market and to reach a different demographic of people.
Yeah. Super smart. He understands like his surroundings. He has an idea of his brand. He's talked about that. And if you really think about it, right, whether regardless if you're a DJ, you're a producer, or both, we're on brand, right? You have fans and supporters, and if you have to like think like that if you're going to make it in this business, because it's not show friends, it's not show Discord as much as we love it. It's show business. And that's what this is
Exactly.
if you're going to advance your career and get a management team around you. So yeah, I thought that was fantastic to dive into the business side of it. What'd you think of when Ambrose what do you think when Ambrose was talking about, a lot of the old school sounds and where Big Room is? Because he was really candid about Big Room and where it's at now and where it was and where it should be.
I really enjoyed him talking about that because I remember a lot of those old tracks that he was talking about, and there was nothing like that sound from back in the day that I really hope to see in 2022. We might be implementing those sounds into some of the tracks that we put out now, not just us personally, but anybody that's watching this. Um, you know, go and do your research, dive deep into some old crates, and see what you can pull up. I think even when we had Ty Hay on the show, he was talking about he used to listen to his dad's old trance mix on a CD, and just stuff like that. It might spark something that gives you a new sound in your creative work.
Bro, I got a party with that guy's dad.
Me too.
We're probably close in age too. We're but yeah, to find like old stuff, old EDM music on your dad's stash. It shows me how old I'm getting, because my son would probably then do the same, right? And you're
Right.
right.
My daughter too.
Yeah, if you want to look forward, sometimes taking a peek back at the past can drive that inspiration. I thought too with him, I was really taken aghast by his inspiration, right? Really drawing from different anime things. And he was very detailed with it. Very, very detailed with it. I thought that was one of the most impressive parts of that interview.
Yeah, we haven't had a guest that was into anime like that we know of. And yeah, you can find inspiration in anything. So I find inspiration sometimes watching sports. I mean, that
Yeah.
sounds weird to say, but you're a sports guy as well too.
Yeah.
Anything can draw inspiration. So
Yeah, totally. And then we can't talk about inspiration without Gabe's story about how essentially Hardwell, in his words, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was saying about how Hardwell had changed his life, saved his life, and that's
yeah,
kind of drove him or got him through some tough times, and now he's at where he's at because that inspired him to be a better person. I thought that was remarkably. We talked about it candid, open, and I know a lot of guys have been through that.
right. Yeah, that was a real inspiring story. And like you said, I've known a lot of people that have been through that as well too. I can't say Hardwell per se for me, even though I love Hardwell, but I think one that was really driving me to get in the studio every day and all that, and you could probably agree, is W and Blaster Jacks and those guys.
Oh yeah, I look the charisma that both of those, and they're both duos obviously, but they really feed off each other's energy, right? And
Yeah,
Blaster Jacks in particular on their Instagram, I'm not sure there's anyone having more fun than them. Maybe Declane on their Instagram,
yeah,
but they have an absolute blast, and it's infectious because I've tuned into their, like, just scrolling through Instagram, and I've kind of been stuck a little bit. And I'll see those guys having a good time. And it reminds you, like, it's tough to be in the studio to get inspiration, but you really got to enjoy, the opportunity that we have a studio, that we can do these things. And Blaster Jacks always gives me that reminder.
and speaking of Blaster Jacks and all that too, like we've talked about it on the show before, can't remember what episode, but they're on their Instagram and all their social media so much, and staying in tune with their audience and replying to everybody. So that's another thing you could take away, is just being engaged with your audience.
Yeah. I spoke of a story. I was pretty fired up, I think, in that episode. I forget which episode that was. I was fucking hot.
Yeah.
When I left a message. But no, like, Blaster, Blaster Jacks will respond to you, right? And Declane will respond to you. And he'll be like, hey, thanks for taking time out of your day. And that's a connections there. Also, I don't know this for a fact, but I really feel like that also drives the algorithm, right? The more responses you have with an artist, I feel like that person pops up more in your feed. I have no statistical value to provide for that. But I always seem to see those two guys, and I follow like 1,000 people, and those guys are constantly on my feed.
Yeah, I think let's just say, for example, like you have 50 comments and then you add 50 comments to your post because you're replying to everybody. So that's getting it out there more, I believe.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely anything to kind of trigger or drive the algorithm is always really good. So let me ask you this. We've had a pretty considerable amount of guests. I think I'm taken back about the type of guests that we got, right? So first you got a guy
right off the bat.
Yeah, like Chaotix was great because he's got a name in this industry. But then it was great because we had some really true underground guys with Ambrose and Tai A. Gabe's right there making his name through production, but he's pretty big in the local scene DJing. And then you get a guy like Zach's in here and Gaspar, and so it's been a nice mixture of different types of talent that we've had on the show.
Yeah, and I think we said from the get-go about doing this that we wanted to mix those underground artists, but also with some more mainstream people and even bigger names one day, to kind of keep that healthy balance. Yeah, it's voices of the underground, but I would love to hear Blaster Jack's backstory about their coming up from the underground, because their underground back then is way different than it is nowadays.
Yeah. So, you're telling me there wasn't FLPs available back then, Ty? Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe not. I don't know. And speaking of FLPs and all that, yes, Rob, I switched to Ableton.
Okay.
Or I have Ableton as well.
Okay. So Dude, I almost feel bad at this point for the amount of peer pressure because episode over episode, whether it was Sebastian Mateo or even Gasbars, an FL guy talking, well, I'll be switching to Ableton. That was fucking comedy. I mean, I had a good time.
Yeah, the only support I had was Zach's for the most part.
Yeah, Zach's was not about that Ableton Live. He is not switching anytime
Nah.
soon. He's FL till the day. But it was funny because we talked about my reaction to Sebastian Mateo. We made a clip out of it. I honest to God thought he used FL Studio. I hadn't followed him that closely on the Switch, and then that was a genuine reaction out of me when he was like, "No, I switched last year to Ableton." I almost fell out of my chair.
I know you did. That was something funny. I had to clip that for the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
Well, speaking of funny, so we're doing this podcast, and we've got a guest on, DJ Guy, and we're having I think it's a pretty serious conversation, and then all of a sudden, out of absolutely fucking nowhere, this steam engine comes barreling through, the fucking show, and
Yeah,
I was like, bro.
that was my favorite part.
Where does he live? Grand Central Station? What the fuck?
He's at Disneyland.
Yeah, I was like, we're not editing that out. That's for sure. There was some good edits. Your chair fucking up every 15 minutes during the Gasbars episode was great.
It's still fucking up now.
Did you get WD-40, Ty? Did you get that?
Yeah, I've tried it. It's just at this point, like the microphone and the camera. I bought a webcam as well too. Hopefully 2022, I'll get that all set up and ready to go. But it's just one of those things. I gotta buy a new chair, man, and just.
Yeah,
I'm working on it as the episodes go on.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you're watching, we need the views. Send it to your friends. We need to get this guy in your chair with those YouTube royalties. But no, what I like about those is the human element, right? Because we're filming this thing and it's not like it's, like a high production show on ABC. Like there's a lot of human element to this. And that's what I really appreciate about doing this show. It's real people with real stories, and it's a little less formal for them to share these things with us and our audience.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when some of these names go into other, let's just say podcasts or other interviews and all that too, they're kind of not stuck up, but like kind of a little tense. And here at the show, we kind of like to be a little bit more laid back and just kind of have some fun and just learn about our guests. And I think that's one thing we have going good for us with doing this podcast.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and it's a touch and feel thing. One of our audience members says, "Hey, start a GoFundMe for Tide." That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No, I learned a lot because I remember the first episode. I was getting hammered. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what you do on podcasts, right?" Dude,
yeah.
By the time we were done with that episode with Adam, I was half awake. I was like, "Yeah, great episode, guys." And I learned at that point I'm going to have to stick to monsters on this show because I do not have the endurance to just. I don't know what I was drinking that day. I think it was. I
think you had Jack Daniels because
it was Jack.
Yeah, because I had Corona.
Yeah, so we're.
I learned real quick too. Not to be drinking on the show. After like the third episode, I'm like, okay, yeah. By the end of it, I'm like, I'm done. Let's get this over with.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Let's just start drinking some Applejack. And all of a sudden, you're getting into this conversation, right? And I'm drinking like a fish. I'm like, man, Adam's just going off with some incredible stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm like, man, I don't know how to say it, but I'm fucking hammered right now. So I definitely learned that wasn't going to work.
Hey, but it's just trying. It's just trying stuff out, man. And we know now not to drink on the show, except for special occasions and stuff. But it's just a learning. It's just process. Just learning the process.
So yeah, if Ollie James comes on this show, which by the way, I guess let me back up.
We're already talking about 2022.
Yeah, I don't know if that's happening or not. But what I think is interesting, right, is if you go to our Discord. The amount of names that are in there, right? You've got a Kevu's in there. You've got Ollie James in there. Who else? We got Zach's obviously.
Sebastian Mateo.
Yeah, Sebastian Mateo's in there.
A&G.
Yeah, it's right. The A&G's in there. I thought it was really interesting. So it's kind of surreal, right? And obviously we don't talk to them like we're fans. I think that was a point Adam made too. Like, hey, these are normal people. Treat them as such, and we do. But it is kind of take a step back and like, whoa. We just launched this thing and you see some really heavy hitters in there. I remember Axmo commented on Gasbars thing. Hey, saw your podcast. Hope everything is well. I thought that for me was kind of cool. It wasn't necessarily the people per se, but it was just, wow, these guys we're making some headway with this show.
Yeah, and once again, we started in October, so I mean, there's other podcasts that I've seen on YouTube and stuff that kind of do something similar to this, but I feel like we got something good going here, and I'm really happy that we started this, and I'm super excited for 2022, man.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so let me ask you right now, right here. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You have one. Okay, fuck that. Your top three. You got top three guests for 2022. If you can interview anybody, who would they then be?
See some of the people in my top already. We've had talks with about this. We'll go with I think DeQuain. We got DeQuain.
Yeah.
He's interested. That would be a good one. This one's a stretch, and we've already talked about them on this episode. But Blaster Jacks, I think down the line when we get the numbers and the stats, and we can prove to people, hey, we're making a name for ourselves doing this. I feel like that would be the time to hit them up. Dude, that's hard. There's so many people out there.
Oh, there's a bunch.
Yeah, I want to say Axmo. I think they would be real cool to talk to.
They're interesting, right? Because they put a lot of stuff on their social media, so they're super engaged. But they're interesting because they're doing the up tempo, like happy hardcore stuff, which I think is fascinating. And that's what I want to talk to guys about. So for me, like Ollie James is at the top of my list because you talk about a big room legend, underground guy who made it, right? Millions of views on Ecuador, revealed and all this and yeah. But he switched his sound, right? And he switched his sound. He went a harder tempo, a little more in the throwback with the acid stuff. I think that's interesting to circle back around with him and say, hey, what made you do it? And how's it working out for you? Guys like Maddox, right? Like they're kind of in that
That'd
same
be a good
boat.
one.
Super successful people, but then all of a sudden they made a switch. And I really want to pick their brain as to why, because I think it's you have fans on both sides of the aisle. Like for me, the harder stuff, let's fucking go. But I got a buddy in Portugal who who on the daily says, man, I really miss the old Maddox. And so it is interesting to why they would then do that. Yeah, you nailed it with Blaster Jacks. I think they're uber interesting on how their process with everything. I'm gonna give you a name from the underground who should be a megastar and who might be Hussman. I'm gonna give you a Hussman.
Oh, yeah, dude. He's so underrated, man. I love Houseman.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a true talented guy, ins and outs, understanding music theory and how to work up and down scales. I think Hussman would be a fun talk to. He seems like a nice guy. He's one of those guys where you watch him, he's always smiling when he's talking. I think it'd be a fantastic interview.
Yeah, and to get his insight on his video game that he's creating, because I think he's like one of the only EDM people that I know of that is creating an actual video game.
Yeah. I'm curious of where he's at with the Mad King, right? I believe that's what it's called, the Mad King. Yeah. So I think all of these are definitely a possibility. I think it'd be fantastic for fans to kind of hear on a different perspective from some of their favorite artists.
Right. So you said Ollie James and Hussman. Who would be your third one then, Rob?
Oh man, I should have came prepared with my own fucking question.
Right.
You know who I'd like to talk to? I'll tell you who I'd like to talk to. And don't say it's not possible because if we put a man on the fucking moon, we can interview Hardwell, right?
Oh, dude, yeah.
If we put a man on the moon, we can interview Hardwell. And I feel like right time, right place, probably won't get him for an hour, but I think at some point or another we bump into him at Ultra. But I think, he's coming back, or certainly rumored to be coming back for Ultra. I don't know. I'm curious to see what his sound's going to be like, if he's going to stick to big room. We've all been speculating. It's been a lot of topics there. But yeah, something like that. Pick his brain. And then a side note, who like kind of a sleeper person, it'd be like one of the artist managers.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. That manages the artist, so we can kind of give them a behind the scenes perspective.
Yeah, managers and even tour managers like Billy from W&W, or label managers, because there's or what's his name, Pasquale from EDC.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that's fuck, man. That's a big fish.
yeah, to get these guys insight on behind the scenes of EDM and all that too. There's a lot of people out there, including myself, and I could probably speak for you as well too, Rob, that would love to hear, the behind the scenes of EDC and how they got it built up, and behind the scenes of this label, and so on and so forth.
Oh, dude, that would be monster. And then what they look for in artists, right? Like, how do they book
Yeah.
artists? Like, guy, and okay, his name just came to me. Philip Dreisen. Am I saying that right? Philip Dreisen?
W&W
Yeah,
manager.
yeah, the manager at 20 Agency. He would be a guy. You talk about picking a brain who's got a lot of different experience with artists. What he's looking, because right, managers aren't just picking up anybody, right? So having the ability to provide something to an agency, and what that something would be, I think that would be because I don't think there's a whole lot of interviews out there like that.
And yeah, I mean, just the possibilities are endless with people we want to interview, and the sky's the limit. You just got to keep grinding and keep pushing and be motivated to get to the level you want to be. And I think with this podcast, Rob, you and we're going to keep pushing and keep trying to get, better and better every podcast.
Yeah, no, dude, totally, totally. And I think just providing a different perspective, that's one of my goals, right, for this show in the new year is to let's talk about artists, let's talk about management, let's talk about the different avenues of EDM, because I think all of it kind of encompasses the ecosystem, right? It all feeds this big ecosystem because they all need one hand needs to feed the other. And like I said, the more we can cover, I think the more value we can bring to folks.
Yes, I agree 100% on that. And real quick, let's circle back to when we were talking earlier about forming a group with friends and all that, and building yourself together with a group of people, because there's no I in team, right? Everybody has different connections in this industry, right? Rob, you know different people than I know. I know different people than you know. And if you are working together like Rob and I are on this podcast, then you can bring those connections together and really make things happen. And that's why we have big hopes for this podcast. Is we know people that know other people, and just connections. At the end of the day, this industry is about connections and networking.
Yeah, yeah, and the storytelling behind all of that, I think, is just invaluable. I I'm kind of a sucker for a good documentary, whether it's a 30 for 30 on ESPN or a Netflix documentary. No, I have not seen the new Tiger King. I'm not sure I can sit through that again, but no, I like hearing the stories behind it because again, we talked about it with Gabe and whatnot. These are relatable to everyday people because I know for me personally, I get caught up doing it like W&W looks amazing. They're just hanging out with DJ Guy the other day, right? They're normal people having a good time, and they're good people, and they have some really good things to share. And I think that's what I like about this industry as a whole. The experiences that we've had, the experiences some of our friends have had with quote unquote bigger artists, they're generally good people. And that's what I like about EDM as opposed to maybe some other genres. I'm not getting into rap, even though I make that shit. But but the fact that people are good hearted, willing to share. Obviously, there's a bad apple every now and again, but that's what I love about EDM. When Omen Ozgon talks about, hey, I'm coming out with a synthesizer, it's $1. I love to share.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice if it worked better, but the point is the that there's a lot of sharing in this industry, and I have an awful lot of respect for people who like to do that because they're normal. They're normal like you and I, and that's what's great about this industry.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, okay, let me ask you. So, we look at some of the storylines of the year. All right, and I'll kick it off. I think one of the big things this year, as far as the industry, since that's what we're talking about, was David Guetta / Morton. They're basically 1A and 1B at this point, winning top 100 again. And Future Rave is absolutely exploding. Once thought to be a fad by a certain label owner, now is going to be the norm. If you listen to Ollie James's set that he did for Rave Culture, a shit ton of Future Rave in there, and it's good, right? Like it's good, it's pleasant music, it's fun. I thought that was a big storyline. I thought techno tech house being, now you're seeing main stage techno, like it's a thing, like obviously main stage tech house with Fisher and all that happened, but main stage techno, I know Danny Avila's set was super sick. Obviously Ollie James is kind of going down that route. What Ben Nicky did on his live stuff, it's fucking here.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. The future rave and then the techno stuff, what Maddox is doing with Revealed and all that. I kind of see that going into 2022, like being one of the staples for that year, where it's going to be future rave and big room techno, and kind of driving, being on the front lines, pushing for the genre.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Uman Ozgon played a couple live shows, and it was banging with his techno kicks. And he was like, "Hey, what do y'all think?" I was the best shit I've ever heard. I really like it because you can get into a good kick and bass, in a live show. You can really feel that thump and that rumble. I agree with you. I think it's going to be here for a long time. What do you think about uptempo? We saw a rise in uptempo. We saw labels, i.e., if you look at Rave Culture's catalog from this year, from 2020, is significantly different, mostly including uptempo. You've got the Ollie James tracks in there. What do you think of the shelf life of that?
I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Once again, I think that's going to be one of the big genres or subgenres in 2022 and even past 2022, because it's getting even more popular. We've made a track that's up tempo. That's your thing. I absolutely love it myself. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I can really see these labels and these underground labels signing more of that as well too.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I thought what maybe on the underground scene you didn't see a lot of up tempo from maybe some of the big room labels, but I think it's going to sneak in there next year, and I think it'll kind of follow suit on the trickle down effect. Um, yeah, man, I think that was big. Let's see, what else did I want to cover? Oh, I thought it was a big storyline too, at least in our world, was artists in the underground making it to commercial labels. Quero, right, getting up to Reveal, Gaspar getting up to Revealed. I thought that was a really big storyline, like you said, in our circle, to kind of illustrate that, it can be done.
It shows it's possible. It shows that with the hard work and dedication, like we always preach on the show, that it's possible to do this. Just don't give up. Just keep working hard on it.
Yeah, yeah. And shoot your shot, which
Definitely.
hold on, I gotta give you some love here. You did. We had a dead idea. It was dead in my mind. I didn't even know you had it. I sat there, I forgot. I mean, I have a horrible memory, right? So I forgot all about it. So shooting your shot. So DJ Guy's doing this insane set, right? For 1000-to-1 track list. Like super sick. I didn't have anything to send him. I was like, yeah, I got nothing here. And I had no idea you had sent him a collab we had worked on. And I'd forgotten about the track. And yeah, well, take me through that process and then how it ended up or where it ended up.
Okay, so he was asking for IDs and just tracks in general. So I sent him that track because he was asking for like faster stuff towards the end. So I sent him our ID and he played it. And the amount of love that we got on that live stream for that track, I mean, DJ Guy was even telling me, people were hitting him up going, "Yo, what is that track by Robert and Young Tai?" So there's this label, which a lot of you guys know, underground label, that's actually doing great things right now.
Yeah.
HDR, House District Records. And I got to talking with them and I said, "Hey guys, would you ever chance signing something like this? Because it's kind of out of the realm of what you guys sign." And they took a listen to it and they absolutely loved it. They gave us a little bit of feedback on what we can do to change some things to make it better. And I think it came out even 100 times better than the original version.
Yeah, when you open up an old project and you have like new techniques and you can incorporate the two. I had no idea what the fuck was going on, right? So Gabe's doing this set. I'm minding my own business. I had no idea this was happening. So I'm like, I forget what I was doing. And then I hear this song. I was like, "Oh, it's kind of cool. Wait, this sounds familiar." And then I was like, "Yo, this is the idea." Oh shit, I didn't know. And then I texted you, or you think you texted me, And then, yeah, 1001 Tracklist had a comment, hey, sick ID. And I was like, the fuck was going on here? And then, yeah, you had come to me one morning and you're 3 hours ahead of me. So I'm looking at this message and I'm like, he's like, yo, HDR is down to sign this thing. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. And yeah, that was great because I had never give up. Send your stuff out. You never know what could happen to it. But yeah, that story for me was really fun. I was talking to my wife. I was like, I had no idea, and that is a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, anything could happen because we made that track back in August-ish? July?
Yeah, end of summer. Yeah, end of summer. And I was like, here, I just got this lying around. I remember liking the break, and then yeah, you made a sick ass second drop for it, and yeah, man, it was cool, man. It was cool just to see the feedback and so forth, and then shout out to DJ Guy for playing it, because like you said, without you saying it and him playing it, this conversation isn't exactly happening. So no, that was fun. And speaking of HDR, so I've gotten to know them a little bit this year. I had obviously not been really familiar with them, and they come off as really good music people. I know they just added a really strong person to their team in Steeper, who was running Blasting Recordings, and I've had a relationship with him for a while. Super, super cool guy. He's out there on the ground in Netherlands. So yeah, he's got some really good ideas. I think that label is going in the right direction.
It is, yeah. I've known them for a while, and just to see the progression they've been doing over the past couple of years and stuff, it's been one to watch. So I think they are one of the underground labels to watch for next.
Well, what I like about them, and I talked to them a little bit. Neil he's a fantastic person who I believe runs the label.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to sign different types of tracks, and you kind of feel like they understand what what's. They're not chasing trends per se, but they kind of understand like, hey, this is what people like, right? And isn't that like the point of a label, to put out music that then people like, not your personal taste? And through them, I found a guy like Cuero and Zance, super talented guy, Zance. I've talked to him a few times. He's got a real shot this year or next year at doing something special. So yeah, that label's got some guys. I saw they signed Greg Katona. That for me, when I saw Greg Katona sign there, and for those that aren't familiar, this dude plays at one of the best clubs in the world. Absolute monster on the decks. And good producer too. He had a track on Rave Room. And I was like, whoa. He's out here. So you can tell they're kind of bringing in different types.
Expanding.
Different types of talent, different genres. And so I think labels that can adapt are the ones that can withstand the test of time.
Yeah. And speaking of labels, let's talk about it. Chaos Recordings.
Oh man, yeah, the word is out on the streets, Tai.
Yeah, so for a lot of you that don't know, it should be out by now. But Chaos Recordings is a brand new record label by Chaotix, Adam, our friend, and it's another underground EDM label. Big room, progressive, hardstyle, up-tempo, techno, whatever is festival oriented. So be on the lookout for that. And Rob, what are your opinions on what we're going to be doing with 2022 with Chaos Recordings?
Well, I'm fired up because obviously, people have heard me say, hey, look, festival music that you can dance to. I've said that probably on numerous occasions on this show. And, when Chaotix would say, hey, look, I'm going to start a label, this is exactly what I'm looking for, festival music. And we know at festivals, there's different types of festival music, not just one very specific sound. So I think that for me is the most exciting part, right? And you had touched on the different genres that's quote unquote being accepted. But yeah, if it works at a festival, then I think, why wouldn't, you sign it? And I think too, the mission statement behind this, right? I think that is what's most exciting as far as, yeah, you want to sign big talent, big name artists, but your Instagram isn't your currency at this label, if that makes sense. If you've got 30 followers, that's not going to be taken into consideration. The music should stand and speak for itself. So I love that mission statement. If a track's, I know Adam's gone on record. If a track's about 75% there, they'll work with you to get it 100% there, not just say, hey, that's a no for us. Kick rocks,
right. Yeah.
So, or if the mixing isn't so good, what can we then do to kind of get it home. I think that mission statement there is fantastic. And then when you look at the technology behind it, the way you're going to be able to submit demos and the type of feedback you're getting, it's not just, hey, the mix needs work. Those types of things are what makes a corporation expand and run big. And I think that that's what's going to happen there at that label. Strong ideals behind it, a lot of passion, and then there's a lot of people behind it as far as like there's different A&R. So it's not just one person dictating what's then going to be signed on that label. You've got a collective amount of voices that can say, hey, look, this is our perspective, and then decision, quality decisions can then be made.
It's going to be one to be looking out for in 2022, and I'm super excited for the path of Chaos Recordings.
Oh, dude, the fucking first track is absolute gas.
It's a banger. Yeah,
Adam's worked on that for a while, and we heard it, right? We heard it just the other day, and it is fucking pristine. That is how you start a label. Your kind of your launching track, and it's beautiful. It's an absolute beautiful track.
Definitely. And there's some down the pipeline as well, too, that we've heard that it's going to be gas.
Oh, dude. And then, I think, too, is he's talked about doing live performances, artist nights, and things like that. And that's something I've been saying to somebody else. And I'm like, look, we need to get in these nightclubs. You can do these events. They're very low. They're cost effective. Make it happen live. And he understands that because he comes from the DJing side of it. He's been up there on stage behind the decks and understands what's going to work live. Like that, having an artist and a DJ behind a label, I think is completely invaluable.
Right. It's electronic dance music. Keyword dance.
We've been saying it, man. I've been saying it.
Yeah.
I'm not even friends with some people anymore because I say it too much. But that's true. That's true. We're making dance music here. It's got to work live. And it's got to be fun. You got to have fun with this, right? That was what the cool thing with the old school tracks that we talked about, like the Mammoths of the World, Animals, the Hum. Those are fun tracks. They're not overly complicated, but those are fun, fist pumping, have a good time with your buddies in the club tracks. And I love to see the underground get back to that.
So yeah, covering, Chaos Recordings, that's going to be a huge thing for 2022. But let's talk about the podcast, our viewers, our fans, and what we have in store for them in 2022 when it comes to new content.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting because I think we spoke about it at length, and we want to have more engagement from the fans of the show to the artists and kind of bridging that gap, right? So in 2022, we're going to have a live audience where you're going to be able to even ask questions within real time, and you can kind of see the inner workings behind the show. I know we're going to launch a Patreon that's going to be affordable for everybody. They'll have exclusive content like Q&A opportunities with the artist. So there's going to be a lot of additional access that people are going to be able to have and really kind of see how behind the scenes workings of the program.
Yeah, because we also do in our Discord as well some behind the scenes stuff of video editing and just some stuff that you might not see put into the podcast. So like Rob said, yeah, Patreon, that's affordable for everybody and all that to give you that exclusive little take on behind the scenes and uncut, unraw stuff. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and then you are working closely to getting this on additional platforms, right?
Right. Yeah. So I'm working on a website that gets you onto Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, stuff like that. It should be out maybe by the end of this year or the first quarter of 2022. But we will be on additional platforms as well, too, because I know everybody can't watch the full hour and a half of the podcast on YouTube. You can listen to it on your headphones on Spotify and all that to stay up to date with us. So that is coming as well in 2022.
No, that's exciting. It's exciting because, like you said, people consume information in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think to kind of boil it all down, our big goal for everybody is to be able to participate more and to take this show and really give it to the audience, to our fans, to be able to, own it, if you will, if that makes sense. A lot of the questions that we're asking, I really want fans to be engaged in that because this is something that we do for a lot of people out there, and we want to make sure they're having that level of engagement.
Right. We do a little bit on our Discord with asking artists questions that we should ask them in the episode. But yeah, it's about getting that engagement because this is not just for us,
Yeah.
for myself and Rob. This is for you guys and all that to know your favorite artists more and stuff and engage with those favorite artists. And I know a lot of those bigger names as well too love to give back to the underground scene and to people like us as well that are coming up and having that connection. So at the end of the day, it's community driven.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't have said it any better. Community driven. That's fantastic. So yeah, and like you said, for myself, and I know you too, Ty, you can always reach out to us via DM on our
Always.
Discord. Instagram is always a good way to get a hold of us too. Like you said, just any questions or things that you'd like to see. We love suggestions, right? We love that level of engagement. So yeah, anything you guys like to see, reach out to us and let us know.
Yep, like Rob said, all of their links and everything for our Discord and our Instagrams are always going to be in the description. So don't mind hitting us up at all.
Absolutely.
Well, Rob, is there anything you want to cover before we send this into 2022? I know we have a big guest coming on probably for the first episode. We'll
Oh,
keep that a little hush hush right now.
oh, I'm so fucking hyped for that. I'm gonna be pounding monsters like it's my job.
Yeah,
No, no. I think for me, it's just to thank you for all you do for the show, the editing that you put forth. Yeah, like I said,
I
it's a pleasure.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure coming on with you and talking about music. Like I really feel like I tell my wife this. I have the best job in the world to be able to do this with you. So yeah, I think
Same with you, buddy.
yeah, we're gonna have a great New Year's for sure. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to so much more.
I look forward to what 2022 has in store for us as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great year. We're gonna get through this spike, and I know we're gonna get back to all of us, the world partying again with each other. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the future. So yeah, cheers to everyone. Have a great New Year's, Ty, and yeah,
You too, buddy.
look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Same with you. And like always, guys, you could catch Robert Go on Instagram at Robert Go, and you could catch myself at Young Tai. Hit us up, like we said. We'll be more than happy to talk. And you can join our Discord server, which is going to be in the description, Voices of the Underground. And we'll see you guys in 2022, bigger and better than ever. Happy New Year's, everybody.
See ya.